Hello there, lovely folks of YouTube. Ren here. So, I have to admit, some of you may have thought I was a little bit harsh in my last video where I talked about mentors and why I feel that most of y'all who are new to the craft are going about it the wrong way, asking for a mentor. I understand why you're looking for that, because I understand that when you're first getting started in witchcraft, there is so much, and it's hard to know where to begin. So let's talk about that. Where do you begin? There's no one answer, really, because it's really just going to depend on what made you interested in witchcraft in the first place. Whatever it was that sparked that interest, whatever it was that you thought, oh, that's really cool, that's where you start. It seems so simple, it's a little counterintuitive, but that's really it. So like in my case, my gateway into witchcraft was plants. Obviously. That's what I do. It's not the entirety of my practice at this point, but that's the gateway that led me in. I started with plants because I was a gardener. Even before I was a witch, I was a gardener. And I love plants, and I love being outside, and I love nature. I had a subscription to Ranger Rick magazine for years and years when I was a kid. I just loved it. And that's what led me on this path initially. So it was initial explorations into some of the folklore and historical magical uses of those plants that eventually led me into witchcraft. From there, of course, started doing my own spell work, which led to deeper ritual work, which led to developing relationships with deity, which eventually led me to Blue Star, and like the ball just keeps rolling. Witchcraft is like a rabbit's warren, okay? There are so many ways to get into it, and there are so many paths that just continually cross and recross each other. Any one thing that you start with is going to have connection points to other things that lead to connection points with other things. There's really no wrong place to start. It's just a matter of getting down into that hole and starting. I will say though, regardless of where you choose to start your path, there are a few basic and essential components to a witchcraft practice that I feel are important for everyone to at least have some familiarity with. Even if they're not the primary part of your practice, you should at least know how you do these things when the need arises. So number one is energy work. This is a thing you hear us talk about all the time, energy work. Basic meditation and focus is a part of energy work. Grounding and centering, shielding, cleansing, all of these things fall under energy work. This is a lot of time considered to be like basic or beginner witchcraft. I consider it essential witchcraft. This isn't something that you learn as a beginner and then you never use. You use this continually throughout your entire practice. So it's really important to start learning those things right off the bat and continually do those things as you're practicing. Now, there are about oh goodness, my notes just dropped. Okay. There are about as many different ways to do like a basic grounding as there probably are witches. Every book that I know of that has been directed at beginners in some way probably has a way of doing it. I'm not going to direct you to a particular book, although I will say that if this is something that you really want to dive deep into, there is, I think I have it right back here, yeah. Matt Oren's Psychic Witch is a really, really deep dive into that practice. So normally I don't recommend books, but I will recommend that one. So another thing I consider an essential component of any witchcraft practice is a divination practice. There are a lot of different ways to do divination as well. The simplest one I can think of off the top of my head is a pendulum. Pendulum work, very easy to pick up. It's very easy. It's a very intuitive system. A little limited in what information it can give you because it's usually just a binary yes, no, boy, girl, you know. Not that boy, girl is actually a binary, but I'm thinking back to the old divination of where you take the wedding ring and you swing it over the woman's belly while she's pregnant to tell you what gender you're going to assign that baby. So yeah, showing my age, I apologize. But anyway, divination practice. There are intuitive systems, tasseomancy or tasseography, which is tea leaf reading, augury, which is omens from birds. You can do bone throwing, or you can do the more symbolic systems, runes, tarot, geomantic figures. You can even use astrology to do divination. That's way outside of my wheelhouse, but it's there, you know. If something there interests you, then by all means, you know, start reading up on it, learning it, doing the thing. Personally, I mostly do tarot. I do a daily tarot card read. Usually, not every day, but definitely on the days that I work. I want to know what my day at work is going to be like, so I always draw a card to know, like, is it going to be a shit show? So, and it's usually pretty right. So there are certain cards where anytime I get like one or two particular cards, it's always a shit show at work. So that's a really good one. And then I'm planning on learning tasseomancy after Yule. That's my little homework I've set for myself. So yes, I think it's an essential practice, mainly because you're going to have questions. You're going to have things that come up. You're going to find yourself in weird situations, and divination helps to clear out some of the crap to get to the root of the problem and help you figure out what you need to do. So I think it's really an essential practice to have if you're going to practice witchcraft. Okay, I fixed my notes. I feel better now. So moving on. Basic correspondences. These are things that you see a lot of time. The way that things overlap and interact with each other. Knowing about your different moon phases, the full moon versus the new moon. Knowing about some of you may use Sabbats, some of you may not, but just knowing about the wheel of the year in general, how the seasons turn and how they correspond and overlay with the time of day and the moon phases and so many other things. You know, they're all kind of interconnected systems. Learning about how those things are interconnected. Also, learning about the correspondences of the days of the week is really helpful. Every day of the week has a correspondence with one of the 7 planets and has its own kind of energy that's flavored by that planet. So kind of knowing what days of the week, you can kind of plan what days are good for doing certain things or other things. For example, I try to never release one of these videos on Tuesday because Tuesday is associated with Mars and it's not a good day for conflict. I try to do either Wednesdays or Sundays if I can, because Wednesday is Mercury, that's good for communication. Sunday, of course, is Sun Day. That big illumination and warming and bringing light to things. So, you know, those are the kinds of things that are helpful to know about and just have a general grasp of. And they're going to come in handy throughout your entire practice. So that's something that I definitely feel like you should work with. And it's really something like, I'm not a big fan of rote memorization. I feel like actually working and interacting with the practice is how you get to do and really get into your bones, you know, where it becomes instinctual. That's why I can know, like, okay, well, it's going to be Tuesday, so don't do these things, you know. It's from just that constant, you know, repetition of actually incorporating it into my practice that it becomes second nature. So that's a big thing. Learning those correspondences, learning about those energy currents that happen in those different times of moon phase and days of the week and times of year. It can be really helpful to understanding some of the energy currents that you have within yourself as well. Because you may notice that, like, you feel different at different times of year, and if you know what those energy currents are doing, then you can better understand why you feel those ways, and it's really helpful. Better way to temet noske, know thyself. Finally, and honestly, this is probably the thing that brought most of you here in the first place. I'm going to admit, it's the coolest part of witchcraft. Spellcrafting. Yes, everyone should be able to make their own spells. you will see a whole bunch of spell recipes out on the internet, and I'm not knocking them. The same way that I'm not knocking actual cooking recipes, you know? But being able to tweak and customize that spell is how it's going to hold a lot more power for you. Same way that, like, I may see someone's cooking recipe and go, that has too much garlic, I'm going to cut that down, you know, and just customize it to my palate, and then it's going to be a more pleasing dish to me. So, same principle. Spellcrafting is basically the heart of witchcraft. And if you're not doing spellcraft, then you're probably just not practicing witchcraft. Even those of us who do witchcraft as a religious practice, you know, in Wicca, a lot of what we do in ritual is still essentially spellcraft. And of course, that energy work all ties into it. The first thing that I mentioned that you really need to practice. Being able to move energy is also a big part of spellcraft as well. So, divination, those correspondences, that all of it really ties into spellcraft. It's all leading into that thing, because that's really the thing we're all here for, let's be honest. So, there's a lot to unpack there. I'm probably just going to have to make an entire video dedicated to that. But what I will say right now, the best way to learn spellcraft is to do spells. That's it. This is a practice. It's not something that you're really going to pick up from reading a book or watching videos or even, you know, talking with other people about it. The same way that you can't learn to play an instrument by reading a book about that instrument or watching a YouTube video of someone playing an instrument or attending an orchestra concert. You know, you just got to get that instrument in your mouth or in your hands or whatever and do it. And you're going to suck at it, and it's going to be terrible, but you're going to get better every single time. And eventually it's going to become second nature, and it will be a part of you. And that's what you got to do. So, my word of advice, don't be afraid of screwing up. You're not going to have Satan show up in all of his terrible glory in the middle of your living room and take you straight to hell because you happen to throw some salt water around. Okay, it's just not going to happen. I don't have the power to do that as an experienced witch. So, spellcraft is much more subtle than that. You're not going to fuck up your life unless, of course, your subconscious really wants your life to be fucked up. Then that's another issue you got to deal with. That's not necessarily the fault of the spellcraft. That's a user error. So, divination helps with that. Getting to the root of those problems as to why these things are fucking up. But anyway, don't be afraid. Jump in. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. I'm rooting for you. You can do it. You'll be awesome. Just do it. It'll be okay. I promise. All right? Now break. I feel like I was just rooting you on the sidelines of a game. Big game. All right. Anyway, but yes, do the things. That's really what you just need to do. Do the things. So, anyway, I hope that this is helpful to you. I hope that I have given you some confidence to just get out there and do the things, because that's really what you need to do. If you want to be a witch, you got to do witchcraft. And the best way to do it is to do the things you like. That's it. Okay? So, I love you all. I'm cheering for you. I'm rooting for you. Y'all are going to be awesome witches, I promise. We are all awesome witches, no matter what level of practice we're at. So blessed be y'all, and I hope I'll see you again soon.